This crew is made up of couples. It's the first ever large-scale colonization mission, and everyone back on Earth is really grateful for your hard work and your courage. We're making history here.
Sweet. What are the odds of finding human vegetation this far from Earth?
Who planted it? Hear that?
What?
Nothing. No birds. No animals. Nothing. What happened here?
Hey man, what's going on? That was a trailer from the Alien Covenant movie that is out now. This is Cool Water from Ballroom Chats, creator of the hip hop site is Hip Hop Dead, digitaldopeman.com, and the founder of Kill the Black Entrepreneur, the African American Entrepreneur's Holocaust. I wanted to briefly go into quick discussion as it relates to Alien Covenant. I went to see the movie twice, so I can make sure I had all my thoughts and things of that nature in order. So you just heard about a minute and some change of the movie, in which case it's basically about a group of colonists, aka settlers, who are in space looking for new land. The majority of those individuals are white folk, European descent. They had one brother on there, but the majority of them was white folk, with 2,000 and something other colonists sleep, from what I understand. As the movie progressed, they learned that there was some planet that was off course but was quicker to get to, that will allow them to go take a look and see if they could set up shop and begin to colonize and civilize that particular planet. It had fresh water, I'm not going to say vegetation because I didn't see any food or anything of that nature except for the plants, but it would allow them to come in and set up shop. So with that being said, I felt it was a need for me to speak on this particular subject matter because there's some things that I've been doing some homework on, and one of which this particular movie is also connected to the Prometheus, which talks about the gods that came down and created man. Now, in here, what I found to be really interesting is there was two android brothers. One was good, one was evil. One was named David, one was named Walter. And as the movie comes on, David, the evil android, is talking to his creator, which is a white guy, who talks to him about life and a few other things, and then also talks to him about him creating David. And then David makes the statement and says, well, if you created me, who created you? So now that takes you on a roller coaster ride that a lot of people probably don't even pay attention to. As the movie progresses and these folks find this new planet and they begin to go out and explore, they also run into a series of events where some, I guess you could say, new life forms enter into the host or enter into the individual through the nostrils, through the ears, but they are infectious organisms that actually turn them into a host so that the organism can manifest and grow, which ends up being the alien. As they begin to move throughout the diaspora of the area, two individuals get sick, one of which makes it back to the ship. So now here's where things begin to take a different shape, a different form. And no, I take that back. It was two black people that were alive who were a part of the crew who was out exploring. Well, as the black lady begins to take the white guy back to the ship, and the white girl who was managing the ship helps her get the guy into the medic bay, this is when the shit starts to get tricky. Because now at this particular point, the sister, black female, will be considered of African descent or what have you, starts to notice that the guy is turning into a monster. The white girl, who was also in the medic bay, she starts to notice he's turning into a monster. She immediately evacuates and she locks both of them in. The black girl runs to the window. Bam, bam, bam. Let me out. The white girl will not let her out. Both of them have been in the medic bay. Now, you can look at that and say, oh, man, she is containing the infectious disease by not allowing them to come out. But this dude got an alien that's steadily breaking out of his body. And that black girl is not infected at the moment because the alien can only infect you if he enters into the host, which is your body. White girl starts to play survival of the fittest. This is some of the stuff that I've noticed. She plays the survival of the fittest and will not let the black girl out, right? She's bamming and screaming. So the black girl goes back to the white dude and tries to somehow or another console him. But by this time, the alien breaks through his back and begins to form and grow. At this time, the black girl is banging, begging, pleading, let me out. White girl comes back after she ran out to the front of the ship, calls for help, comes back with a gun, opens the door, and begins to possibly think about neutralizing the alien, but she can't because she's in so much fear. But the black girl now was being targeted, and she can't, and she cannot, get out. So the white girl leaves her in to die, right? As the movie progresses on, well, let me go back. At that moment, I noticed that there began a fight for survival. White girl versus black girl, however you want to look at it. Now, the white girl could have opened the door because at that moment, the host was not out of his body. She could have let her out. She didn't. She thought about her own genetic survival. She thought about the fact that, hey, this person in here is not close enough to me in relation to my culture, my ethnic values for me to allow her to leave out of here with this monster that's coming out of this guy's body. Right. So it puts you in a perspective of, you see, what's going on now. And you see black versus white, white versus black. And this is the same thing that anybody would do. I think that's of another culture. Black folks, we have a tendency, man, to want to help everybody else but ourselves, right? So the black girl ends up getting killed. The white girl ends up going to save her own ass. As the movie progresses and another guy gets alien infected, people are starting to spaz out. They starting to, they trying to figure out what move to make next. Now, there are two brothers, the android brothers, David and Walter. What really became significant for me was the evil android, David, comes to save the crew. Once he gets the crew into his domain and begins to tell them kind of what went on in the past, so on and so forth, that's when things become tricky. Now, David meets his brother, Walter, and they talk, and he makes clear, concise statements, which says, I can't allow this race of people to survive based off what they've done in the past. I can't allow them to continue to thrive and survive. In which case he's talking about destroying a whole race of people. But the race of people that he's really talking about from a metaphysical standpoint ain't black folks. It's the European culture. Right. He makes reference to the Neanderthal. Anybody know what the Neanderthal is? That's the caveman. The caveman came out the cave. The caveman began to settle and take form and take shape. But then that goes back to Charles Darwin, who also talked about the survival of the fittest, or man coming from monkeys and things of that nature. Not to go too deep, but this is what spawns supposedly European culture. And then Charles Darwin, he flips it and then puts it off on other cultures as if, we came from some primate. So Walter and David is having this talk, but David is letting Walter know, I have to ensure that these people here on this ship, who was predominantly white in nature, do not live because they are a destructive culture, and I can allow them to survive. You see what I'm saying? But he makes reference to the Neanderthal and how that they are somewhat a part of that. So as the movie progresses, you see the life forms take shape, and you see the hidden meaning behind the alien covenant and why the movie is what it is, because the aliens per se are more or less the new man. I guess you could say the new hybrid species that Walter would control that David would control, because he's the evil doer who has the conscience and the mindset of humans. And he's looking to create a whole new race where he can control, but he has to do away with the folks on the ship, which are predominantly white, because the black folks on there it wasn't but two. You see what I'm saying? So I found this to be interesting, man. And you probably would have to see it to understand it. But the big takeaway is, the Neanderthal piece that David mentioned to Walter, that the race needs to be put down. And the fact that once you started seeing the anarchy, just like in Belko experiment was the same thing. Once you start seeing the anarchy, once you start seeing the mayhem, the chaos, the murders, people started to go for self. That white girl left that black girl in that medic bay, not because she was sick, not because she had an alien in her, but merely because it was, I got to protect my culture, my race, my ethnicity first before I deal with you. So I'm willing to let you die, even though we're on the same team as employees and crew members, to ensure that I survive. And that's what I took away from it, man, in so many regards. You know what I'm saying? So even in space, even as these people call themselves exploration mission or new settlers or whatever you want to call them, when it came down to it, it was always a survival of the fittest and putting the needs of white folks before they put the needs of anybody else's before they own, in which case, a lot of folks end up dying. So this movie, man, it got a lot of metaphysical subliminal messages in there. If you really understand and you're really doing the homework, you know what I'm saying? I think you should go check it out. It's worth checking out. And I think it's just something, man, that, once you get off into some of this information, you start to understand a lot of different things, because apparently Earth was not able to be sustained, and they took enough people with them so they could repopulate a new location. I don't know how many African Americans they had on there. Like I said, I only seen 2, but the 2 that was on there was not the majority, and they themselves could not survive. You know what I'm saying? An uprising or some type of anarchy from those people that actually really, really controlled the ship. So the white girl let the sister go ahead and die for her own genetic survival so she could be able to sustain her own life, in which case she ended up getting killed herself from being selfish. And then, you know what I'm saying? David tells Walter that the race that is presently in his face, which was a bunch of white folks, did not need to live. And his job was to bring about their demise so he could control and keep the new hybrid species of alien and put them on the map and put them in control, because the Prometheus movie, if you go back and watch that, the gods, which was responsible for creating man, also did not deserve to survive because somehow or another they were a problem in David's eyes. So it's a lot of hidden meanings, man. But check the Alien Covenant out. I just wanted to drop this. I think it's worth looking at. I think it's worth, you continuously learning a little bit more about man and species and how human behavior, psychology, sociology, and physiology all interact. Hey, man, it's cool water. Check me out at the blog Is Hip Hop Dead? Look for me at thedigitaldopeman.com, and also be looking out for the lecture, Who Killed the Black Entrepreneur? Peace and stay blessed. Holla.